So then he goes on a very, very long rabbit hole about the human larynx. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I'm going to skip over this portion because I don't find it necessary to talk about. A lot of it is based on esoteric lore and not science, so I'm going to save that one for the choir. If you are interested in reading this section, you can look up the 12th gene key, A Pure Heart, on YouTube or Google, and I'm sure you can find someone who either explains it or has it printed out there. I know there's also a podcast on Spotify where the gene keys are present. So yeah, I'm just going to skip over that and right to the good stuff. Sorry, Richard Rudd. He says, the great secret of the 12th shadow is language. Okay, so is this that great secret he was talking about just a little bit ago? We'll see. Language. And he actually brings up Adam. That's so interesting because earlier when I gave the Adam and Eve analogy, I didn't remember he brought up Adam. Yes, he brings up the Adam's apple, and he says that this Adam's apple represents the masculine principle of the mind that becomes identified with your words, thoughts, and actions. Giving the illusion of power through language. The illusion of power through language. The illusion. Wait, so does that mean there is no power in language? The 12th shadow, he says, is about loving the sound of your own voice. Right? Vanity, being obsessed with how you present yourself, this excessive pride. But back to this question, we understand what vanity is all about, right? Being very into the self. But wait, back it up, Richard Rudd. What about that part where you just said there's an illusion of power through language? Is language powerful or not? It's not what you say that matters. Okay, so I read that and I was like, really? Really? And actually, you know, my eyes kind of squinted as I read that. I'm like, I don't know about that. I actually beg to differ. I think what you said completely matters. So I kept reading, because this is the thing about really diving into any text, podcast, teacher, piece of wisdom, whatever, lesson from a friend. The ability to keep an open mind, even when something makes you kind of squint your eyes and be like, I don't know about that. This ability to keep the open mind, I think, is very, very powerful. So, even though as he says this, I'm like, I opened my mind back up and I kept reading. It's not what you say that matters, but the frequency that lies behind your voice. Vanity can choose the most beautiful of words, but it can never hide the frequency of its tone. Okay. True. I think all of that is great. And, you know, I will just say personally, after reading this and genuinely trying to see this with an open mind, I still do think it matters what you say. However, I do agree with the fact that frequency is extremely important. The frequency of what you're saying, of how you're saying it, the tone, the vibration, the subtle meaning, the energy. And I do think all of that is more important than what you say. However, I still think what you actually physically say is important as well. So I'm pushing for a more holistic model and offering you this ideal that what you says matter, but more important than that, how you say it matters the most. Whereas Richard Rudd is saying, forget it. What you say doesn't matter. How you say it is everything. Pick your bill or make a new one. And he has a great point here, right? We all know those very charismatic people that either dominate the friend group or get onto a stage and speak to thousands of people that are kind of preaching absolute bullshit, but they say it in such a energetic, charismatic, attractive, magnetic way that people are just drawn to them, even though you're like, oh, come on. Clearly, they're off or something's off here. And so I think this is important that he goes over this because it is true. Words are just words, and without a high vibration behind them, they mean nothing. Damn, I guess he is right. Oh man, I'm gonna have to sit with that one. But anyways. Frequency, how you say something matters. And even the way I just said that, right? Frequency, how you say something matters. Quite literally materializes into matter. I think that's a nice little play on words. And then he reminds us here something very, very, very important. None of the 64 shadows are inherently bad. This 12th shadow of vanity is not bad. The 10th shadow of self-obsession is not bad. The 3rd shadow of chaos is not bad. None of these 64 shadows are bad. If you declare something bad or evil, you will miss the gift that lies hidden within it. So once again, we can't derive this gift state of discrimination from vanity if we reject vanity and call it bad. We can't elevate into the Siddhic state of, what was that one? Being, if we reject self-obsession within this 10th gene key. So the shadow is the seed that the fruit eventually is blossomed from. We need the seed, we need the shadow, we need the darkness. This rejection of part of the reality of how a fruit comes into fruition is very important. And so I think it's a nice little reminder that he says this. Vanity is a necessary part to graduating into the Siddhic state of purity. And on that note, I'll offer you guys the first contemplation of this video. And maybe this is extending a little bit further than this concept of vanity. But what's something in your life that you have labeled as bad, as evil, as unnecessary, as inconvenient, as I'd rather not do that, as a rejection of reality? Maybe you fell off a moped and you're like, oh, that was bad. That event was bad. Or maybe someone broke up with you and you're like, that was just horrible. I didn't want that to happen. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe a loved one died. There's levels to this, right? Find one thing and really sit with it and see how you can see the necessity of this event in your life. See it as the seed that will grow into a tree that will bear fruit for you one day. And if this is a more recent event, it might be harder to see what's coming out of it because the seed might still be in the dirt. But if this is something maybe years past, you might already see the tree growing and you might have already picked the fruit and started to eat what it's bore. The point being, every shadow frequency, every quote unquote bad event, evil event leads to something that blossoms. So it actually might be more constructive to pick an event from years past to see how it blossomed into something beautiful so that you can apply this wisdom to something you might be experiencing in the now. Vanity also goes beyond words and can hide in silence. Wherever there is self-identification, there is vanity. Wow. Okay, wherever there is self-identification. So this is my sweater. These are my notes. This is my YouTube channel. This is my auntie's house. This is my purse. This is my pen. This is my hair that's all sandy from the beach earlier. Oh my God, I literally just pointed out where vanity is present, like in, I don't know, more than 5 different things within a few seconds. Wherever there is self-identification, there is vanity. And remember, he emphasizes in the beginning of this chapter that vanity is the last of the shadows to fruit. And, you know, I can see why. There's self-identification literally everywhere. Anytime you use the word mine or my boyfriend, my house, my job, my friend, mine. There's self-identification, there's vanity. So it makes sense that this is the last shadow, the last seed to sprout and to blossom into a fruit that you can eat and enjoy. And he emphasizes here that this shadow is so elusive, it is better to not think about it at all. Even the very thought that you might be overcoming your own vanity leads to more vanity. So what I just said right there, I don't want you to sit here and be like, oh my God, how am I ever gonna sprout this seed into a tree that blossoms? Like, as he reminds us here, which is the last thing I'll leave you with, don't think about it. This is not something you can analyze your way through. You're not meant to sit here and brainstorm how you can sprout a seed. The seed knows how to sprout on its own. All you have to do is trust that the seed has the technology and the intelligence within it and the heart to sprout. So that last little section is not meant to overwhelm you as you look around and realize how much you're identified with. It's more meant to just bring into your awareness that vanity is present. Because as with any bad or evil event, or really just anything at all, awareness is the first step. Shining your light of awareness onto anything starts to naturally, inherently enlighten it. There's nothing to do here. Just look at. Just observe. Watch. Just notice that I call this my sweater. Just notice that I call this my bag. Just notice that I call this my YouTube channel. That's literally all there is to do, is just observe. So this is not meant to overwhelm. This is meant to just start to crack that first hard layer on the seed so that it can start to dig its little roots into the dirt and grow upward, root down to rise up. So check back in next time for part 2 of 2 of this shadow frequency of vanity. I'm gonna go make my dinner now. Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's Haley and today we're going over the 12th gene key, a pure heart. Sorry, I saw a note on there that made me smile. I wrote one of my friends' names and put a question mark because those 3 words, a pure heart, remind me of my friend. So anyways, 3 parts to this gene key. Also, sorry, this is kind of crooked today. I can't for the life of me get it to stay straight. So that's what that is. 3 states to this: the shadow frequency of vanity, the gift of discrimination, and the Siddhic state of purity. Going from vanity to purity. It's quite the leap. So as per usual, before diving into this, I closed my eyes and thought of what the word vanity brings up for me. And honestly, what I thought of was that little blue Smurf. The Smurfs is like this cartoon. I'm pretty sure it's American. And there's one Smurf, I think his name is Vanity. And all I know is he carries a little mirror and he's always like doing his hair and cares about how he dresses and he's very pompous. And so I thought of this little Smurf who's pretty much obsessed with his self-image. And then I Googled the word vanity just to get a comprehensive definition. And vanity is excessive pride, admiration of one's own appearance or achievements. The age of Instagram, I feel, perfectly depicts vanity. This shadow state is quite prevalent in today's times. Admiration of one's own appearance. I mean, the selfie in and of itself is a perfect example of this. Or one's own achievements. Vanity can manifest in a person's pride around their job, how much money they have, how much success they have, how many cars they have, how many hot chicks they've been with, whatever, right? Vanity is this collection of appearances or achievements that one wears for everyone else to see and wants everyone else to see. It's excessive, it's oozing pride. So yes, getting clear on this concept of vanity before we dive in, I feel is important, especially since this word vanity honestly is so similar to Gene Key 10, the shadow state of self-obsession. And as I was going through this chapter, I'm thinking, wow, these are very similar. And in Gene Key 10, we go from the shadow state of self-obsession into the citic state of being. Whereas in this 12th gene key, we're going from the shadow state of vanity into the citic state of purity. So I think after watching part 1 and part 2, which will be posted tomorrow, of this shadow state of vanity, it might be interesting and helpful to backtrack to Gene Key 10 shadow state videos, view the contemplations that I offered you in those to see if you have any revelations, since I feel this is honestly kind of a continuation of the talk of self-obsession. Vanity is the twin brother of self-obsession, in my opinion. And what's interesting about this is he actually says that down here, he says this 12th shadow, vanity, and he defines it for us, is the love of your own uniqueness, which sounds so similar to Gene Key 10. And he also notes, similar to in Gene Key 10, he says, no matter how far your awareness advances, vanity will cling subtly to you even at the highest of vibrations. He says something very similar in Gene Key shadow state of self-obsession. Gene Key 10, shadow state of self-obsession. And the only kind of slight nuance he makes right here, right now, is he says that vanity is the very first human vice. Okay, so if we're looking at the evolution of the human through the Christian lens, Adam and Eve, just to make a simple example, the very first vice that Adam makes is vanity, being excessively prideful. And again, I'm just using the example of Adam and Eve. You can go down any mythic lens or religion that resonates. I like to mix up which view I look down. I don't particularly prescribe to any religion. I think we're all one. I like to look at all of them. So he says it's the very first human vice, and it's also the last shadow that will let go of you. And this differentiation between this 12th shadow and the 10th shadow is quite significant in the sense that vanity, this very internal shadow that follows you wherever you go, that's there no matter how conscious you become, is the first and the last, the alpha and the omega. So it has a very big completion energy to it. It's the starting and the breaking of a cycle. It's kind of life and death here. So yeah, this speaks a bit more volume, in my opinion, to the 10th gene key. And although they are twins, in my opinion, I have a feeling this 12th gene key is going to help build upon what we already talked about in the 10th gene key, being at ease. Also, Richard Rudd gets a little cheeky here and he throws in something super random. He goes, oh, by the way, little sprinkle. Oh, by the way, there's a secret that remains firmly locked away until you activate the highest frequency in the 12th city. So until you go from vanity to discrimination to purity, you will not know what this secret little gift is hiding inside of this 12th gene key of pure heart. And then he totally changes the topic and keeps talking. But I like how he just, oh, by the way, there's like a super awesome gift hiding in this. Okay, next. It's like, wait, what'd you just say? What was that? Are you gonna tell us? No, he's not. Not quite yet, at least. So, little foreshadowment there of what's to come when we start to talk about the acidic state of purity. But for now, let's mosey on with the shadow state of vanity, the twin brother of self-obsession. Vanity only stops being vanity. This is a big sentence here. He's about to tell us how to make vanity obsolete. Vanity only stops being vanity. Vanity only ceases when you realize that to love yourself is actually to love everyone else. And this is a huge revelation, right? It's quite literally a quantum leap. The day a person wakes up and realizes, oh my gosh, when I am more caring to others, when I'm service-oriented, that actually translates to true self-love. Because once again, let me just remind you all that this caring for others, this service to others oriented mindset, this heart-based consciousness, this fourth density, whatever you would like to call it, is putting your attention and your energy and your admiration and your care towards the all. What's included in the all? You. You are included in the all. You are a piece of this cosmic pie. So when you start to shift your perception from me to the all, now it's you and everyone. So I want to be very clear, this is not a deleting of the self or a rejection of your own ego. This is an inclusion of you with everyone else. And we can talk about this all day, but realistically, this revelation is one that a person needs to experience in order to download this wisdom into the subconscious mind and body. He says this 12th shadow is deeply involved with issues of personal power. And there's this yearning to express the purest qualities latent within your soul, within your heart. And as you start to move through this key from vanity into discrimination, you'll start to unlock great artistry and intelligence. Intelligence is speaking more volume than just to intellectual intelligence, just to school and book knowledge. Intelligence can manifest, yes, through the left brain, but also through the right brain, through cooking, through a certain sport, through emotional intelligence, the way you listen. Intelligence is infinitely broad in what it refers to. Vanity is very afraid that you come from your heart because it thinks you will lose your power. So the ego is driving the car here, right? The ego is the thing that's like, no, actually, I need to be in control. I need to think this out. I need to know. And if I don't know, and now I just decide to trust and lead from here, well, that freaks me out and we can't do that. So vanity and the process of vanity becoming obsolete in the individual looks like transitioning from using this primarily to using this primarily. Allowing the heart to drive the mind, not vice versa. He notes here that your ability to connect with the power of your own breath and emotions is what helps you graduate out of vanity and into the gift frequency. the power to connect to your own breath. And your own emotions, your own energy in motion. Let's break that down a bit. Why would connecting to one's own breath cultivate power? Real power, not ego power. Well, because if you're in control of your breath, if you're connected to your breath, if you can slow down your breath, you can slow down your mind. You can slow down your actions. You can slow down your ability to self-destruct or disturb others. So yes, power of the breath, connection with the breath is very powerful. And breath is also linked to the energy in the body, the emotional state. And, a very simple example of this being, say, something scares you, you start breathing really fast. If you're able to come into a moment of awareness and remember, I can stay connected to my breath. You can slow that breath pattern down. Yes, maybe something scary is still happening, but at least now you're in the present moment and all of your energy is coming back to you and not being used subconsciously by the body to create panic within the body. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now, and I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. All the constant comparison to others and to your people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.